This Week in American History, presented by Double H Customs. This Week in American History takes us from the Civil War home front to constitutional liberty, from the battlefields of World War I to the frontier of civil rights. These moments reveal the tension, sacrifice, courage, and civic responsibility that shaped the American story. From disorder and dissent to honor and reform, liberty is never preserved by accident. Monday, July 13th, the New York City Draft Riots begin, 1863. On July 13th, 1863, violent unrest erupted in New York City after anger over the federal draft boiled into the streets. Many objected to conscription, especially the provision that allowed wealthier men to avoid service by paying for a substitute. What began as protest quickly descended into riot, destruction, and lawlessness, exposing the strain of war on the Union home front. The draft riots remind us that war tests not only armies in the field, but also order, responsibility, and unity at home. Tuesday, July 14th. The Sedition Act passes, 1798. In 1798, amid fears of foreign influence and domestic unrest, Congress passed the Sedition Act. The law made it a crime to publish false, scandalous, or malicious writing against the federal government. To supporters, it was a measure for national security. To critics, it was a direct assault on free speech and a dangerous abuse of power. The Sedition Act reminds us that liberty is tested when fear tempts government to punish dissent instead of protecting it. Wednesday, July 15th. The Second Battle of the Marne begins, 1918. On July 15th, 1918, Germany launched what would become its final major offensive on the Western Front. American forces, fighting alongside the Allies, played an important role in the brutal struggle that followed. The fighting around the Marne became a turning point, helping shift momentum toward the Allied cause. The Marne reminds us that military history is often written in endurance, sacrifice, and the willingness to hold the line when freedom is under threat. Thursday, July 16th. Washington, D.C. is established as the nation's capital, 1790. In 1790, Congress passed the Residence Act, establishing a permanent capital along the Potomac River. The new republic needed more than laws and ideals. It needed a permanent seat of government to anchor its future. At the time, the future capital was not yet a grand city, but a planned place where national authority would take root. Washington, D.C. reminds us that a free nation depends on institutions, structure, and the patient work of building a durable government. Friday, July 17th. Apollo-Soyuz docking, 1975. In July 1975, American and Soviet spacecraft docked in orbit during the Apollo-Soyuz test project. The mission became a symbol of cooperation during the Cold War, but it also reflected the confidence and capability of the American space program. It showed that even in an age of rivalry, strength and diplomacy could exist together. Apollo-Soyuz reminds us that national achievement is not only measured in conflict, but also in innovation, discipline, and the ability to lead with confidence. Saturday, July 18th. The 54th Massachusetts assaults Fort Wagner, 1863. On July 18, 1863, the 54th Massachusetts led a heroic assault on Confederate-held Fort Wagner near Charleston, South Carolina. The regiment was one of the first major African-American units raised in the North, and its courage challenged the prejudices of its time. Though the attack failed to take the fort, The valor shown that night earned lasting respect and helped strengthen support for black soldiers in the Union cause. Fort Wagner reminds us that military service, sacrifice, and honor belong to all who step forward when duty calls. Sunday, July 19th. The Seneca Falls Convention begins, 1848. On July 19, 1848, reformers gathered in Seneca Falls, New York, for the first women's rights convention in American history. The convention challenged long-standing legal and social inequalities and called for a broader recognition of rights and citizenship. Its organizers understood that liberty means little if its promises are denied to part of the population. Seneca Falls reminds us that the American story includes the long effort to bring the nation's principles more fully into practice. From draft riots to constitutional debate, from battlefield sacrifice to civic reform, this week shows how American history is shaped by conflict, courage, and conviction. Liberty requires more than remembrance. It requires responsibility, discipline, and citizens willing to understand the cost of preserving it. This Week in History has been brought to you by Double H Customs. Rights, responsibility, quality.